Good evening, I'm back. I am your host, Jack Remington, the Jack Remington NFL channel. This is the first of two videos that we'll have out for each selections. I got two entries. The survivor pool picks I told you about that entered. My main card and my top entry, I'm taking the Baltimore Ravens, taking the sure win, what I consider the closest thing to the surest win on the card to get on the board, to get a win. The second one, I'm gambling a little more. I'm taking the Washington Commanders. I got them as like the fourth or fifth worst team in the NFL, but they're playing the Cardinals, the worst team in the NFL, who may be deliberately tanking. So anyway, let's get to the picks. And I'm going to try to keep them in rotational order. The first game we're taking the Buccaneers plus the 6 points. They're at the Minnesota Vikings. And on deck, Vikings are at Philadelphia on September 14th. It's coming Thursday. I look at this as one of a couple games where they might actually be looking ahead. I think the Vikings are kind of dismissing Tampa Bay a little bit because they don't have Tom Brady anymore. They're still the division winner of 8-9 last year. They still got some talent, and 6 points is a lot of points. The Vikings, their draft, to give them a B. They did pick up 6 players in the draft. 2022 team stats page says 12th in the NFL on third down percentage, which is pretty good. Turnover differential only +2, minimal. They did have 38 sacks, but that's tied for 21st. They need to improve that. They did make some improvements through free agency, and then a couple of draft picks. They got a cornerback, defensive back, defensive tackle. They did address the defensive side of the ball, which Minnesota surely needed. 2022, they beat Green Bay the first week, 23-7. Lost at Philadelphia, 7-24. That's why I think they might be looking ahead, because they're in the same spot, except it's not a Thursday night game they lost to last year. Then they peeled off 7 more wins, and they practically clinched the NFC North before Thanksgiving. I mean, other teams were struggling. The Detroit was 1-6, 1-7, and the Bears were 2-1, but they lost every other game except one at the end. And the Green Bay had their fall off. So then they finally lost to Dallas 40-3. It looked horrible. Then they peeled off a couple more wins. They beat New England. They beat the Jets. They lost to Detroit in a tough game. Then they beat the Indianapolis Colts in overtime. Beat the Giants. And they lost to Green Bay 17-41, and they beat Chicago. But in the postseason, the Giants had a rematch with the Giants at home. Okay, the Giants slunk them 31-24, and we had that game, by the way, because they were just the fraudulent team that had the false record. I'm gambling that they're not going to take Tampa too seriously. They're going to look ahead to the Philadelphia Eagles next week. Here's something that I want you to consider. The Buccaneers had a poor ground game. They had a league low of 5 total rushing touchdowns last season. To compare and contrast, the Philadelphia Eagles had a league high 32 total rushing touchdowns. I mean, that kind of tells a tale right there. And Baker Mayfield's a quarterback for the Bucs. I'm gambling he's going to have a good game. In my opinion, he's too stupid to understand it. He's not it. Baker Mayfield is not it. I'm not impressed with him. Blowing leads against Kansas City, blowing leads against good teams and just can't hang on. Accused of being a choke artist. So not much head-to-head to go by here, but I just think that on the injuries, I'll take a look at the injury really quick. Tampa Bay's got an injury list a mile long. They got 10 people, and the most notable one, Mike Evans got a groin injury, but he's probable. Minnesota's only got 7 players on their injury list, so they're reasonably healthy. That's actually in the Vikings' favor. So we're taking Tampa Bay +3 for our first pick in their soup contest on the main card. Second pick, this is the one I'm going to catch a lot of crap about. Green Bay Packers are at the Chicago Bears. Bears -1. The line's set now. It doesn't change for the soup contest, which I like. Green Bay doesn't have Aaron Rodgers kick around anymore. He doesn't play special teams. He doesn't play defense. I don't know who they're going to blame if they have another bad year. The part's there for the Green Bay Packers. Okay, going back to 2019, straight up 14-4. 2020, 14-4. 2021, 13-5. Last year, 8-9. Okay, against the spread. 2019, 11-7. 2020, 11-7. 2021, 12-6, pretty damn good. And they may have been number one in that category. I didn't research that, but last year, 8-9. And I know in 2021, I didn't get a content strike, but I copied Troy Aikman and the crew on that TV, on the football show, how they like 49ers, and that the special teams were going to make the difference. And I thought, wow, and it happened. 49ers blocked that punt in the fourth quarter and took the lead. That was an amazing, hard-fought game. And Green Bay was a top-ranked team from week 2 all the way to that point. They were predicted to win it all. Well, Aaron Rodgers, he had a bad year. He finished 12th. Well, you know what? There's 20 other teams that wouldn't mind their quarterback finishing number 12. Okay, don't you think about that. But they bitched him out, and it's all Aaron Rodgers' fault. Got to have somebody to blame, to scapegoat somebody. They blamed Aaron Rodgers, and he said, you know what, I had enough of this shit. Matt LaFleur is going into his 5th year. His record with the Packers is 49-22 straight up, 42-29 against the spread, which is pretty damn good. I think Matt LaFleur and the guy for the Rams, Sean McVay, they're the best nerd, what they call nerd coaches. You know, they're under 50 years old, under 40 years old, or whatever. They're the best. The other guys, you put them in a barrel of monkeys, shake them out, and I could outcoach them. Okay, so now that I've said that, and yes, they beat the Bears. Oh my goodness, they keep beating the Bears. They beat the Bears 8 times in a row, last 9 out of 10, going back to 2018. And Aaron Rodgers, I own you. It really pissed them off, and there's nothing they can do about it. Jordan Love is the quarterback now, and he only has to be Jordan Love. He doesn't have to do anything fancy. Injuries, wide receivers out for the C. Watson and D. Wicks for the Packers. Bears side, C. Claypool, wide receiver that they picked up from, I guess he was from the Steelers. Claypool is heading to a hamstring injury, but is not expected to impact his status for Sunday's contest against the Bears. We've got a problem now. I wasn't very good, but I did try out for the teams, and I made the team, but I didn't play. It wasn't good enough, and that's fine. You know, ankle injury, and you're a defensive back in the NFL, sorry, not going to cut it. And I want to touch really quick on Matt LaFleur. There was a game, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London, United Kingdom. Oh, the Giants, the New York Giants, okay. And Matt LaFleur took the wrong bus by mistake. I mean, he's got a clipboard in his hand, he's got an assistant in one ear, taking in the sights, a Big Ben, whatever. And it's happened to me. I've been overseas, and I've been distracted. He just got on the wrong bus, and then we're going the wrong way. Oh, sorry, bloke, where you guys? I'm going to the practice fields that way. Well, you know, in the middle of the day, and they got traffic jams like we do here in America, and he missed his practice. And the next day was a game. There was some turmoil between him and Aaron Rodgers, and the rumors had it that Matt LaFleur lost his locker room. And Aaron Rodgers wasn't helping any, but I'm not here to get into that. Oh, and then the next week they were playing the Jets, and they lost outright, 10-27, 5 losses in a row, and they lost 7 out of 8. The season, it got out of hand, and the defense just not going to play at that level they were playing for the previous 3 years I talked to you about. The parts are still there for the defense. I just think Green Bay is a better team. The over-unders, the season totals, have got both teams at 7.5. Okay, they're overreacting for Green Bay's bad year, or what's considered a bad year, and they're overreacting for whatever reason for the Chicago Bears. Green Bay, they had 34 sacks. I mean, notice I keep looking at that first. They were tied for 14th, or they were 14th in the NFC. So they got to get the sacks back to the previous years. But they were number 6 against in the NFL against the pass. I mean, they held defenses down pretty good against the pass. But they were number 26 against the run. They got to shore that back up. Offensively, they were 17th on third down and scoring 14th and passing 17th and rushing 15th. They were in the middle of the road. But their draft, they get a B+. I mean, they picked up 13 players in the draft. I mean, this magazine here gives this Athlon Sports NFL Pro Review gives them a B+. I'm giving the Packers A-. I mean, I'm upgrading this. They got some people, and a couple of them will be starting too. They even got a kicker from Auburn, Anders Carlson. And the little stat here has got the number 12. The Packers' inexperienced pass catchers had only 12 combined broken tackles on receptions. Only the Bills, 11, and Seahawks, 11, and the Falcons, 7, had fewer last season. It was time for the divorce about Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers wasn't communicating with the front office, and the relationship had run its course. Love remains unproven. But I think Jordan Love, from what I've seen of him, and he had a decent preseason, I think he's the real deal. I think he's going to do it. I think he's going to show the world that I'm not Aaron Rodgers, I'm Jordan Love, and I belong in the NFL. Chicago Bears, minus 34.5 is a stat they put in this page here. Justin Fields ranked last with defensive adjusted value over average DVOA of minus 34.5 among quarterbacks who attempted at least 200 passes last season, according to Football Outsiders. This magazine's got the Bears with an A- in the draft. I'm giving them A+. I mean, they probably had the best draft in the NFL. They did very, very well. I mean, they touched every need that they could possibly have. They got an offensive tackle from Tennessee, round one. Defensive tackle from Florida, this beast, Gervon Dexter Sr. Then they got a cornerback, another defensive tackle. Then they got a running back. They got a wide receiver, a linebacker, another cornerback, defensive tackle, and a safety. I mean, they shored up the defense. I'm not a conspiracy nut. Elvis is dead. Adolf Hitler is dead. We did land on the moon, 20th, 1969. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin landed on the moon. These things are real, and the world is not flat; it's round. Okay, but there's these rumors are persisting that the Bears are tanking again. That they were tanking last year until Justin Fields decided on his own. You know what? Hell with this. I'm going to play my best, and he started tearing it. He started tearing. They were still losing some games in that big skid there, but they were 2-1. They beat the 49ers in Week 1 in that monsoon. I think Justin Fields is a good player, but is he better than Jordan Love as a passer? And I say no, he's not. I like my chances with the Packers here, and I got the Packers. The only games on both cards. I'm taking the Packers on both my cards. So if the Packers slonker me, then I'm behind in the contest. That's fine. They only got 20 sacks, and they're last in the NFL. The Bears, they got 20 sacks last year. They're last in the NFL. Scoring, their defense, last in the NFL. They allowed 27.2 points per game. Dead last in the NFL. Rushing, 157 yards per game. 31st out of 32. They were second to last in the NFL. So they're not very good. So if Jordan Love, this is what I'm thinking, if he can do what he's supposed to do, just beat Jordan Love. Don't be Aaron Rodgers. Forget Aaron Rodgers. He's gone. You got rid of him. Just do what you do, and you're going to own the Bears. Now, the contrarian side, people contend, well, if Green Bay's slapped them 9 out of 10 times, that might reverse. And that might reverse, but it's not going to be this week. And the Bears don't have the horses to do it. The Bears don't have the Bears to do it. How's that? Let me word it that way. I think the Bears had the best draft. I really do. So pick number 3. We're taking the Los Angeles Rams plus 5.5 at Seattle Seahawks. I know what you're thinking. I'm making a bonehead move with that, but you know what? Now head-to-head, Seattle got them twice last year. On December 4th, they beat the Rams 27-23 at Los Angeles. Los Angeles was 7-point chalk. They covered the game, but they could have won that game. I remember that game. And then they played again. It was last week of the season. Seattle needed the win to get the playoff spot, and they got it. But they had to go to overtime to do it. The Rams are 5.5-point chalk like they are right now, and they covered. They almost won that game. The Rams only won 5 games last year because they had a big drop-off. Matthew Stafford went down. Cooper Kupp went down. There were a couple other injuries last year that I don't remember offhand. I think a lot of what happened with the Rams last year, Sean McVay was going to quit. He was going to retire. And I remember this. Sean McVay was going to quit, and I think he lost part, if not the entire locker room. Your star MVP, Cooper Kupp, go down like that, and then your quarterback, Matthew Stafford, who I considered a top 5 quarterback in the NFL for years, playing on Detroit, wasting his life away in Detroit. And he's thrown over 5,000 yards every year. I mean, the guy was fantastic. McVay's come back, and I watched him at the press conferences. I watched them all. I love watching Bill Belichick, or worry about Cincinnati, or worry about Philadelphia. People watch him just to watch him fire back at these reporters. What do you think? The Rams, McVay, last year he had the glaze in his eyes, and okay, next question. He'd stare into space, But this year, I think he's focused. He's made up his mind. He's got small kids. I get all that. I had small kids. When you're a parent, you consider your family. But the NFL guys, they spend 8 and 9 months away from their families. They get to see them maybe on a weekend if they're playing a home game, right? I think McVay's back. I think he's focused. I think the Rams are going to show the world, okay, we might not be Super Bowl caliber anymore, but you know what? We were champions 2 years ago, and gave New England all they could handle 4 years before that. We're back, and we're going to do some damage. And they could very well conceivably get a wild card spot. I don't think they'll overcome the 49ers to win the division, but there's a decent chance they could get the 7th seed or 6th seed in the wild card. And then I'll turn on the injury thing here. Los Angeles Rams injuries. There's only got 4 of them, and that's it. They're essentially out 3 players. The quarterback in my mind doesn't count because they got 2 or 3 other quarterbacks that got a taxi squad they can pull somebody from. Then you go to the Seattle Seahawks. Their injury list is a mile long. At least 14 people. The Seattle's got some problems. And I just think this is a good spot for the Rams, and I'm getting points. Pete Carroll's a crafty, wily coach. He's been in and out of the NFL with USC, the college. Pete Carroll's a top-tier coach. I remember him when he was with the New York Jets, and then they fired him, and then he went to New England. And he took one of them to the playoffs. I don't remember offhand, but I'm going back 30-some years, 40 years. Pete Carroll was like the nerd coaches of today. He was real young when he hired him. Then he went to USC for a while. He had a good reign out there. So Geno Smith's going to be the quarterback for the Seahawks. And I remember Geno Smith when he was with West Virginia. I mean, he was just awesome with West Virginia Mountaineers. I mean, he was fantastic. But I think that was a big difference between college and pro, and this has proven it. But Geno Smith has lasted. He's outlasted some of these critics and everything. So you got to give him his due. He did it. They did have 45 sacks last year, tied for the 7th place in the NFL. But they were in the bottom. They were number 30 in rushing. They got to shore up that defense to have any shot of repeating. They're number 9 in scoring in the NFL, but everything else they're 18th, 13th. They're in the middle of the pack. But they got in red zone. They would score. I mean, that's a sign of a well-coached team. The Rams, 14 players in the draft, and this magazine gives them a B. I'm giving them an A-. I mean, they got a guard, center, Steve Avila, offensive tackle, tight end, wide receiver, cornerback, defensive end, running back, a punter, a safety, and another defensive end, Deshaun Johnson from Toledo. The Rams did very well. Last year they only had 38 sacks. They were tied for 21st in the NFL. They did have 16 interceptions, tied for 7th in the NFL. I mean, so that's the veterans doing the work for the defense, trying to save the defense. But they were middle of the pack and everything else, but they're scoring. I mean, their total offense, team total offense, they were dead last in the NFL, 280 yards a game. That's dead last. How do you do that? But they did. 27th in rushing, 27th in passing, 27th in scoring. They were 39% on third down, 18th in the NFL, in the middle of the pack. And Baker Mayfield played for a little while, but Sean McVay rejuvenated. I'm gambling. The gamble part is I think the Rams are they got something to prove. Hey, we were the Super Bowl champs a couple years ago. What happened to that? Aaron Donald was the best pure passer in the NFL. So for that pick, we're taking the Rams. Pick number 4, we like the Dallas Cowboys -3. Even the public and everybody else is having a hard time figuring out. Let's see. Sports Insights has the 46% on Dallas wagering and 54% on the Giants. It's a balanced book. And then Covers.com's got 49% on Dallas, 51% on the Giants. It's a balanced book. So we got just as many handicappers like the Giants at home underdog, division rivalry, and some people like the Dallas Cowboys. There's a Mark Lawrence playbook. Mark Lawrence won a Super Contest years ago. I saw his name on marquee lights in Vegas. He's a very, very good handicapper. No, I've never met him, and he's not sponsoring me. I think he's just fantastic. I mean, the guy's pretty good. He's pretty damn good. This is Brian Dable's first year. He jumped at the gate and took people by surprise. Shocked Tennessee at Tennessee week 1, 21-20. But this week, Detroit Lions shocked at Kansas City 21-20, same score, right? So how about that? I just had to caught that. And the Giants were improved because a few years before. I mean, okay, in 2019 they were 4-12. 2020 they were 6-10, and they almost won the NFC East with a 6-10 record. The Philadelphia Eagles tanked the rest of their stars, let the Redskins win. The role was reversed, and Philadelphia beats Washington, knocks Washington out of the wild card with a 7-9 record, wherever it was. Then makes them 6-10. The Giants win they would have won the NFC East with a 6-10 record. And I didn't bet that game because I knew the NFL would be so embarrassed, so ashamed with the fallout from that happening. Again, I'm not a conspiracy nut, but it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Brian Dable, and they were 10 wins, 8 losses, and that 1 tie. 9-7-1, but they won a playoff game. They lost at Philadelphia, 30-7. And we had the Giants too. I mean, and they got Saquon Barkley. The pieces and parts are there. Yada yada yada. But the Dallas Cowboys has got their number. I'm telling you, head to head. My God, they've beaten them 9 out of the last 10 times. They've just destroyed the New York Giants. And the Giants just don't have the horses. Let me word it that way, and then you can take it what you will. What gives the Giants a puncher's chance, the George Foreman puncher's chance with that big fist, Both teams have a lot of injuries, and if the wrong players are injured, then that's good. The other team a good advantage. The Athlon gives them a A- for their draft. They got Deontay Banks, the cornerback from Maryland, a pretty good player, and I'm a University of Maryland alum, so I follow them a little bit. They've shored up some of that part of the defensive side of the ball. They did have 41 sacks last year. They finished 13th in the NFL, but they're in the middle of the pack they're actually lower into the pack with the total was 25th ranked, rushing 27th ranked, passing 14th ranked. So a little better against the passing yard against the run. Only had 6 interceptions last year. Tied for 31st. They got to get some ball hawks. Maybe they did. Daniel Jones is okay. 15 touchdown passes, 5 interceptions, 708 yards on the ground. 5.9 yards per carry. He did score 7 touchdowns, so Daniel Jones got a little bit of wheels. So I mean that's a positive. And looking on the Cowboys side, the Athlon wants you to read is number 3,327. Daniel Jones and the Giants recorded 3,327 intended air yards, all pass attempts, whether complete or incomplete, ranking 31st in the league, all ahead of only the Panthers. That's got to change for the Giants to have any success. It started out well, but they faded down the stretch, 3-7, like the rest of this. That's a big start they had. And the Dallas Cowboys, a little different. Dallas Cowboys have a lot of team speed. Now, you know I don't like Jerry Jones. Last year they started that bad on them. They hosted the Tampa Bay Bucks. They lost 19-3. Looked terrible. They hosted Cincinnati the following week, beat them 2017. They were at the Giants. They beat them 23-16. They were on their way. Washington, they beat Washington 25-10. At the Rams, 22-10. At Philadelphia, they lost 17-26, but a good game. Then they beat Detroit. They beat Chicago. They lost at Green Bay in overtime, 38-21. I remember that game. They beat Minnesota, beat the Giants again, 2020. Beat Indianapolis, 54-19. Beat Houston. Lost to Jacksonville in overtime, 34-40. I remember that game too. It was a shootout. They beat Philadelphia 40-34. Beat Tennessee 27-13, which I think knocked Tennessee out of the playoff race. And then January 8th, they lost to Washington. They couldn't beat Philadelphia for the top seed. So they rested their players and Washington beat them 26-6. So having said that, in the postseason they beat Tampa Bay 31-14, but they lost to Frisco 19-12. And we had Frisco, and it was a tough game. So the draft, this Athlon gives the Cowboys a B. I'm giving them an A-. So you got defensive tackle, tight end, inside linebacker, another defensive end, offensive tackle, cornerback, running back, and wide receiver. They dabble a little bit everywhere. The Cowboys got their number. They had 54 sacks, were tied for third in the NFL, second in the NFC. 16 interceptions, they were tied for fourth in the NFC. Scoring, number 6 in total defense, scoring. Number 8 in total passing defense. Here's what the problem, they're only 22nd in rushing. They allow 129.3 yards per game. That's only 22nd, but in the NFC they ranked 9th. Total defense, they ranked number 12th, and number 6 in the NFC. So they're in the upper echelon of the NFC. And some people are picking on with Dak. If Dak Prescott's healthy, and they signed that guy, Brandon Cooks. The Cowboys' big offseason splash amount to retread running back Ronald Jones and wide receiver Brandon Cooks for 2023 fifth-round picks while adding past his prime cornerback Stephon Gilmore. That's not saying much when you have Jerry Jones' money. Dallas also lost offensive coordinator Kellen Moore to the Chargers, so head coach Mike McCarthy will take over the play-calling duties. Just that one player, Brandon Cooks, changes everything. They're going to have to put 2 men on him, or maybe even 3. I'm telling you, 2 men on him and with a third spying on him that's going to cover two different players depending on the play. I just think Dallas is going to get him again. They've beaten them all these times in a row. They're going to keep. I mean, now the argument's going to be made. Well, eventually the Giants are going to get revenge, and eventually they will. Eventually, the Giants are going to beat the Cowboys, but I don't think it's going to be this week. I just don't think that the Giants have the horses. I think Dallas has got the talent. Dallas is determined. I think Dallas is going to do it. We're taking the Cowboys, laying the 3, road chalk. And by the way, the division home underdogs are 18-2. Or you can throw all out the window. You got each individual spot. Is the trend going to continue? Yes or no? I say it's not. It's going to continue. They say no. I say yes. Last game. Buffalo Bills -2.5. Now this is the next day. Okay, so Sunday night is the Dallas Cowboys at the New York Giants in the stadium, Rutherford, New Jersey. The very next night, they're going to clean up the stadium, and the Jets are going to be the home team, and Buffalo's going to be the visiting team. If you live near the stadium and you got to sneak in, you get to watch 2 games 2 nights in a row. Buffalo Bills -2.5 are a favorite over the Jets. Okay, now what do we know about the Jets? What's the top storyline? Aaron Rodgers. You think he doesn't have anything to prove? You think he didn't instantly energize this team? Hey, we can win it all now. We can win it all. They moved up from number 21st for the NFL Super Bowl champion futures to number 12 now? By signing that one player. Let's break this down. Head-to-head, they split last year, and the Jets didn't have a quarterback. And they would have all kinds of offensive problems. They beat Buffalo at home on November 6, 2017. And the Jets were 11-point dogs, and not only covered that 11 number, they won the game outright. But the rematch, December 11th, at Buffalo beats them 20-12. But they still covered that point spread. I watched that game. I'm telling you, the quarterback for the Jets played well. They just couldn't protect him. He was just getting hit. That Mike White, I mean, and they bought Joe Flacco, and he completed one pass for 1 yard in 3 attempts. But Mike White, he was 27 for 44, 268 yards, no touchdowns, no interception. They just couldn't move the ball. But they did. They outgained them, Buffalo with first downs, 19-14. And this is important, okay? The Jets sacked them 4 times, but Buffalo got them 3 times. You know the Jets didn't have much of an offense. Buffalo's supposed to be this world champions. They're going to beat the Chiefs this year, right? And but they didn't. But the Jets, I'm telling you, they have this awesome defense. So they lost turnover battle 2-1. They did win the sack battle 4-3. Penalties, they lost the penalty battle 7 for 61 yards versus 5 for 35 for the Bills. And the Jets won the time of possession, 35 minutes to their 25. I mean, they had some things going for them. And they were skidding at the time, and it cost them a wild card spot. But you go back before that, Buffalo had beaten them 4 straight times. The last 10 meetings, the Jets have only won 3. And only one of them at home. Buffalo's beaten them 5 out of 6 years at New Jersey. I think that's going to reverse. I think the Jets got the horses. They had 2 horses last year. They just couldn't do it. But here's what's bad about this, though. They got 16 people on their injured list, but Buffalo's got they got 9. They got 10. The one about the Buffalo's concerning is this M. Hyde. He's a starting safety. He's got a back problem, but he might suit up. Von Miller. I know you know who Von Miller is. He's played for the Broncos. He's out definitely got a knee injury. He's not playing him. That's not good for Buffalo. But the Jets, the very first 2, offensive tackle, D. Brown and Becton, questionable. Shoulder and knee injury. They're questionable. No real super key player. That's okay. I think the Jets are going to do it. I think they're going to come out with a win this year, and they're just going to do it. I think the Jets, they've got something to prove. Buffalo got 40 sacks last year, tied for 14th in the NFL. Number 5 in scoring defense. Number 15 in the middle of the pack for passing defense, but number 5 against the run. Okay, but Aaron Rodgers they didn't trade for him for his running ability. They traded for Aaron Rodgers for his passing ability. And that's where I think Aaron Rodgers got a good chance here, because the Buffalo's in the middle of the pack. Buffalo's offense, number 2 in total offense. Pretty damn good. Number 7 in rushing, number 7 in passing, number 2 in scoring offense. Third down, number 1. The Buffalo Bills, number 1. 50.3% of third down percentage, number 1. And they got a B+ for their draft. They only got 6 players, and I don't think any of them are going to be starting, I don't think. And I love Josh Allen. He played in Wyoming for 3 years, at least I think 3 years, maybe 4 years, but 3 years for sure. And he's seen the sleet and snow and rain. He's a good, tough guy. Buffalo did very well by getting Josh Allen. They could have done a lot worse. And I like the kid. I think he's great. But I like Aaron Rodgers too. They did have 45 sacks last year, tied for 7th in the NFL, 4th in the AFC. Number 4 in scoring defense, number 3 in passing defense, but total defense, they were number 4 in the NFL and number 1 in the AFC, the Jets, the New York Jets, okay? Their offense, forget it. Third down percentage, 28 in the NFL, scoring 29th, passing 15th, rushing, tied for 25th. Total offense, 25th in the NFL, 12th for the rank. Athlon gives them a B for their draft. They did get 7 players: defensive end, center, offensive tackle, running back, linebacker, defensive end, tight end. 4 offensive players and 3 defensive players. So they split it up. 0 is a stat that Athlon wants you to think about for the Jets. 0. New York Jets was the only one of 3 teams last season, and the only AFC club not to attempt a single 2-point conversion. Their offense wasn't their strong point last year. They got Aaron Rodgers and throw a zinger to the tight end screen and a 2-point conversion a couple of times. That'll change real fast. I think the Jets are going to do it. And I got to make one last point. I know it's a long video. I'll be cutting a lot of this out. I'm going to tell you, the people that I really admire keep saying week 1 is the hardest week to pick. It is not. Week 3/4 are now the hardest weeks to pick. Why? Because the teams are 0-2 and 0-3 or 1-2 and 1-3. They got to decide if the season's over or not. Are they going to come out and give it their best effort? Can they do it under this extreme do-or-die pressure? Week 1 is probably the second hardest week to handicap. I always think that week 3, or now it's because 17-game season, it's week 3 and 4. Hardest part of the season to handicap, weeks 3 and 4. Week 17 is the second hardest handicap. Playoff seeding, who's in, who's out, who needs to win, whatever. That's I'm telling you, the second hardest week to handicap. Week 1 is the third hardest week to handicap. I'm doing this forever. I'm doing it for a long time. So that's video 1. Let me get this cut. I got to work on the other video. I got to get this out. Stay tuned. Stay within your means. I got my Stardust lucky hat. So we'll see. Thank you and have a good day.